Hello everyone, welcome back to Digital Art Tutors. As I promised in my last video, I'm going to start a new video tutorial series on Grasshopper. If I brief you about Grasshopper, basically we call Grasshopper as algorithm-based modeling tool. On the other hand, we can define it as visual programming tool too. If you have any programming language knowledge, you know what I mean. Grasshopper is originally developed by David Tutton at Robert McNeil Associates. Though Grasshopper is currently heavily used in structural engineering and generative arts, we as jewelry community can get huge advantage from it too. With Rhino version 6, Grasshopper is included in standard toolset, but you may separately install Grasshopper if you have Rhino version 5. Please use links which I have put in the description section to find more details of Grasshopper. So in the tutorial, I will try to explain you fundamentals of the tool. So without taking much time, let's jump into the workspace to understand the basics. Okay, so once I open up Rhino 6, you can see the icon which is labeled as Launch Grasshopper. If you do not have Rhino 6, if you have Rhino 5, just type the Grasshopper command. Once you have installed the Grasshopper plugin, you can launch the Grasshopper window. So if I click on here, so it will launch this window. Before I go into explain the interface of the Grasshopper tool, let me just talk about how the Grasshopper is working. Grasshopper is, as I mentioned earlier, it's an algorithmic or just node-based algorithm editor which integrated to the Rhino. It helps to define logical relationships between multiple design parameters, which will define a parametric model. Parametric model means that the parts of that design can be changed or related based on various parameters and dependencies which will set by you. When we are talking about parametric model, we really talking about parameters. In general, parameter is a factor which help to define the overall limits of an given system. For a moment, let's define an algorithm. An algorithm is a set of rules which precisely define the sequence of an operation. When we thinking about algorithmic, well, let's talk about a circle. If we take a circle, you know that circle will have two parameters. One is the center of the circle, or the position which lays the center of that circle, and either the radius or the diameter. And if we draw that circle in Rhino, let's take this. For the first parameter is last for the center of the circle. So I can give anywhere in this construction plane, or either I can select the center. So for the moment I will pick here, and then again it will ask for the radius or the diameter. So I can just give any radius like this. So in Grasshopper, same thing can be done, but using the relationship between the parameters. So let's start one. So before I go into the, as I mentioned earlier, I will later explain the interface, but in this case, first I'll take in curves. I'll take this circle component. We call this as component. I'll explain this later. And for this circle component, you can see there are two inputs. One is the point, and next one is the radius. For these 2 points, I can give the parameters. For a radius, I can give a number slider, and for the point I have to put an construct point, which will be the XYZ points, and this I can connect via a wire to this point, and same as this I can connect to the radius point. For these three XYZ coordinates, I can give another 3 parameters. Again, I can take number slider like this. So I can just before I can link, I have to set this slider type into the integer, and I can set the maximum values. For example, I can say 100. So I'll make it commit. Then I can copy this and paste it twice in fact. So then I can just link this using wires like this. Okay. So here, this one also I can change into the integers. I'll later explain what are these data types are. So the maximum, again I can, let's say 20. So just commit it. And now you can you can't see any circle here. So if I just increase this slider, you can see a circle is getting created. And since this xyz coordinates are set to 0, it will always starting from the center of the grid. But if since I have these sliders, I can just change the positions like this. Okay, this is how the creation of circle will be done using Grasshopper. So let's talk about this interface. So let me brief you on the interface. As usual, in any tool we can find the menu list here. If you pull out file, you will have new document, recent file, save document, export. Likewise in edit, you will have cut, copy, paste, normal editing points. And in view, you will have remote control panel, canvas toolbar, component tabs, panel separators. Likewise, so in future videos we'll be learning these things a little bit in deep. Display, we will have as we know in Rhino, we will have wireframes, shading. Likewise, here also we can apply the same things. Solution, these things will be learning later. This recompute, how to disable solver, clear. Likewise, in help also you have some tutorial files here. And just below the main menu, you will find component panel. This component panel, it will categorize into certain categories, like this one is for the parameters, params, and this is for the maths, and these for the sets, and for vectors, curves, surface, mesh. These things, curve, surface, mesh, are always we can find it in Rhino. So you better just make sure these understandable for you for each of these icons. And surface, the same. These still it's showing 6 icons here for these freeform surface tools. But if you can just click this arrow, it will pop up all the surface tools that is available here. In primitives also the same. And in intersections, like you can split, trim, all the stuff is here. Boolean. In transform, again rotate, skew, mirror, these are available. In display, the shading modes, how you can apply those things, and the dimension, how we are going to present it. And these vectors, and at the end you will get some additional plugins like Kangaroo, Kayu, how we can incorporate those tools into the Grasshopper. So just below the component panel, we can find this area which we call as canvas title. So here it says we have open up place to open up previously saved Grasshopper files, and you can save this current file, and you can zoom this one, let's say 50%, 25%, 100%. Likewise, you can just the document, you can place it center. You can just push that to the upper left, right, left. Likewise, you can just move the document here and there, and you can set views, and you can create sketch object, which will later you can convert it into a NURBS curve. And again, you will have the preview modes, shades modes. Likewise, yes, mesh quality. Likewise, you can just change the quality of the mesh like this. And just below this canvas title, we will find the canvas. This is where we are going to put all our components, parameters, all the stuff, and the wires, everything. It will be displayed here. And since I have put these components and parameters in that previous example, this one is we call as one of the inputs, that number slider. So you show that I have changed certain things, like I changed the slider type. So here we have actually basically we have two data types. One is integers and one is floating. Integers is the numbers 1 to whatever the numbers. Floating is with the decimals, like 1.001, likewise, right? So in certain cases you might use integers, in certain cases you might use floatings. And also you can use odd numbers or even numbers, right? You can enable this component of the parameter and disable that also. In values, you can set minimum value, maximum value, and whatever the value range, right? So in this case, I have put the maximum as 100 and minimum is 0. So always you have, whenever you change these figures, you have to commit the changes. Expressions I'll explain you later, because certain kind of mathematics will be involved here, and there are certain things that we might talk in later. These are as I mentioned, these are the number sliders. This one we call as the component. In a component, we have three parts, like this part we can will be the inputs, and this part will be the output, and this one is the component name, whatever you say. And these we call as wires. Wires will be the connection connectivity that we'll get between the relationship connectivity between parameters, right? And you can see these sometimes when we click on a kind of a component, it will get change into green. That means it is being selected. And let's say now these hash color components means those are without any errors. If I just remove this one, just select this one and delete, and let's try to put something else here, that I have put some extrude thing. So some kind of error that if we put it here, no, it's not getting there. So if it is convert this one into the red, that means there is some error involved in that component. Then you have to there will be some kind of balloon kind of icon displaying here. So once you hover there with your mouse point, it will show what is the error. So you have to correct that error in order to get your ultimate result. And yes, that's pretty much all about the interface, and just explain certain basics things about these components, parameters, how we are going to connect that kind of sort of thing. So you just try the example what I have showed you, and you can even you can go into this you can just drag it in and put in here and see what will be the kind of inputs and how, because through this one you will be learning how to create a kind of algorithm, right? This one is the parameters, and this is the processing, and this is the output. Likewise, just try to do some little things. So with next video, I'll be explore this one further, and you will be getting more understanding on how we can use Grasshopper with Rhino for our jewelry model.